I'm super excited. Alright, go ahead and test my mic because I have things broken all around me. Yay. Test, test. Woo. Yeah, we all be smoothing. Moving. No. Well, I have to do a mic check while not many people are here. Yay. Alright, back to the music then until more people show up. Yay. Alright. Let's get into this. For our first story, we will be reading Echoes of the Rift by Scarlet Whispers. Yay! Content warnings in this one include hateful language, mental illness, violence, death, and dying. Oh, no. It's the stream look. StoryForge is notably camera shy. Okay, now it's no longer camera shy. It feels like working with us. Alright, to begin, we'll be starting with the prologue. Yay! Bit of an author's note here. Welcome, Wanderer, and thank you for stepping into the rift. This world is equal part beauty and ruin, memory and nightmare. Here time doesn't play fair, and neither do the hearts caught in its snare. I'd love to know what you think. Every thought, theory, or gasp helps breathe more life into this story. So settle in, hold tight to your memories. You'll need them, and let the rift take you. Prologue. The Shimmerer. Shimmer. It began with a shimmer, soft as breath, dangerous as a promise. The air around Merriwick thickened, though no one could say when it started. The town had always carried a hush. Crooked houses leaned towards the forest as if listening. The river whispering stories too old to be remembered. People walked slower, spoke softer, as if the ground itself might be taking notes, as if the world was waiting for someone to slip. And threaded throughout it all was the shimmer, a pulse beneath every breath, a whisper beneath every thought. Quiet at first, but aware. Elra served drinks at the tavern with a smile that looked rehearsed, the kind of smile that held itself together with muscle memory alone. She wiped glasses, laughed at jokes she didn't hear, and the whole time her skin prickled with a pressure that wasn't quite touch. Every now and again she paused mid-pour, certain something was watching her from the corner of her eye. But when she looked, only shadows stared back. Jax sat in the dark, console glow bleeding across his skin. The flicker of the screen unable to hide the way he stared too long at nothing. Too still, too quiet. Sometimes he blinked, and the world blinked with him. A tiny pulse, a fractional glitch. Gone before he could name it. If he ever noticed, he didn't say. But something in him sensed the shimmer, and the shimmer somehow sensed him back. In Stonebridge, storms came often. They clung to the bridge and moaned through the valley, thick with the taste of copper rain. Margaret sat curled on the couch, dogs asleep at her feet. Cole scrolled beside her. From the street, it looked safe. Small house, soft light, the sound of rain. But the quiet pressed too tightly. Even the walls seemed to hum, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Even so, every so often, Margaret paused, head tilted, as though listening to someone only she could hear. A note beneath the storm no one else noticed. Farther out, Bram's barn crouched beneath the bruised sky. Chickens rustled in uneasy waves, their feathers whispering in the dark. Bram told himself it was foxes again, or snakes, or nothing. but even he could feel it. The land waiting for a sound it didn't want to hear. The barn walls creaking, not with wind, but with something more deliberate. Brain words, please? Deliberate. Something patient, something learning, something leering him. North, in fog-wrapped Graybrook, Callum clutched his coffee like a lifeline. The hill loomed heavy, fog strangling the fences, the road, the silence. He muttered curses into the stream and pretended not to notice that the world had stopped exhaling. That each morning felt a fraction heavier, like the air was pressing him down, shaping him, testing the edges of him. He shook it off. He always shook everything off, but the fog never did. In the suburbs of Windermere, everything was neat. Trimmed edges, polite smiles, identical houses. But Nia's unit felt crowded. Her sisters visits, the endless lists, the weight of keeping everything still. She wasn't alone, not really, but the air carried the same dense hush, as if waiting for something to crack. Some nights, the hum in the walls vibrated through her bones, subtle as a breath at her neck. She'd shake her head, tell herself she was imagining it, and yet the shimmer lingered, watching. Beyond the mall, Evervale burned with light, towers of glass and noise that refused to sleep. Sienna studied late, her lamp casting a single gold circle amid the dark. Outside the city roared, inside it pulsed with loneliness. She rubbed her eyes, unaware of the faint tremors that ran through her reflection every time she blinked, as though the shimmers tugged at her image, testing whether it could reshape her yet. The shimmer threaded through them all, through screens, through windows, through dreams, a pulse beneath every breath, a whisper beneath every thought, sometimes too soft to notice, sometimes unmistakably deliberate, like fingers brushing underneath the skin. No one in Murrick knew it yet, but they were already changing. The shimmer had touched them long before they realized they were being touched at all. Then came the first storm, and with it the rift opened, not like a wound, but like an invitation, and something stepped through. And that is the prologue. It is time for comments. But before I switch to the musics, yay, I think you should go check out the rest of the story. The link should be somewhere. It's very engaging. These are my thoughts. I'll probably type up a comment, but please leave a comment on the story. Reactions to random things. Writers love it. 100% guaranteed. Someone has already left a comment saying, the moment this showed up on my recommended, I knew I had to read it. And honestly, who wouldn't feel the same? It's a good story. I like the prologue. I would love to read more. I'm an enemy to us all. They're back. I keep pressing on wrong buttons. It's my favorite thing to accidentally do. But we are back with The Soviet Sleep Experiment by sineout08. Little blurb overview is this a rewrite of a creepypasta. I'm sure some people who are familiar with the internet have heard of this or even listened to it. It's one of my favorites, but due to its own nature, it has a lot. And I do mean a lot of CWs, content warnings, and trigger warnings. So, physical or emotional abuse, self harm, hateful language, sexual content, suicide, violence, blood and gore, mental illness, death, and violence. If any of those are too much for you as of right now, step back, take a break, come back later when we might be reading something a little less dark and heavy. Forward. Translated from Russian. The following enclosed is a full account, including interviews, journal entries, and first-hand accounts of what is known as the Soviet Union Sleep Experiment, or the Soviet Sleep Experiment. This information is classified and is only to be viewed by Comrade Joseph Stalin. Those directly involved or periphrases associated, i.e. direct or excerpt, Abram. This account was organized, researched and collected by myself, Dr. Dmitry Pasha, who was recruited into the experiment as a consultant and eventual chronicler. The events depicted were housed within the testing facility Ugordi and began on May 22nd, 1949, and persisted until August 8th, 1949, when the experiment was prematurely terminated after a loss of test subjects and internal fighting among researchers. Ultimately, the purpose of the experiment was to determine the long-term effect of sleep deprivation on the human mind through the experimental drug administration through vents which pumped the gas. The test subjects were to remain awake for a total of 124 days, roughly 5 months. The drug, known as neocoda, was yet to be tested on living organisms. Throughout the course of the experiment, much useful data and many results were gained. A printed list concerning the involvement test subjects. All subjects are withered. I'm going to struggle with all the names. Richard Metz here, or in the case of Joachim Esser and H.J. Soldier, prisoners of war captured during the German surrender in the Battle of Berlin 1945. Ages, heights, and weights are depicted from a week before the experiment began. Ranks have been listed additionally. Nicholas Kruger, soldier, 20 years, 67 kilograms, 171 centimeters. I'm going to butcher all these names, just a warning. Egland Bert Onmi, soldat, 22 years, 64 kilograms, 179 centimeters. Ludolf Spitz, Obra gives 26 years, 75 kilograms, 186 centimeters. Joshim Esser, former member of HJ program, 18 years, 59 kilograms, 165 centimeters. Tiedemann Berek, unterofficized, 34 years, 72 kilograms, 173 centimeters. Letters attached to the blueprints of Orenki God testing facility. The subjects of the Soviet sleep experiment were housed in holding cells constructed of concrete. One subject was assigned to a cell. Each cell was equipped with two-way microphones, one-way windows, and multiple sensors to detect heat signatures, oxygen intake, and air composition. Nikita's composition revealed itself to be likely noxious in high concentration. The gas was diluted before being pumped into the cell. Each cell had a heavy door constructed of steel, one which had an airtight seal to prevent any leak of the Nikita. Amenities included a chair, a toilet, a sink, a shower with running water. Food and water rations were housed on shelves within the cell. The subjects would prepare their own meals. Additionally, despite some researchers' misgiving, a bookshelf with sanctioned literature by the NKVD was added. One day before the start of the experiment, on May 21st, 1949, each subject was interviewed along with a Russian-German translator and researcher. Each subject was informed the test duration would be 30 days, as opposed to the real length, which would be 124 days. Thereafter, on the completion of the experiment, each of the subjects would be released back into Germany. This was a lie. All subjects were to be terminated post-experiment, as the subjects were considered missing in action and presumed dead. End of section 1. I really liked that section. This user is open to any type of feedback on their story. And I do believe there are more chapters to this. Oh, nope. Actually, there are more chapters, sorry. I'm just being silly. Oh, feel free to read more. Let's get to those comments. We're back. Yay. Slightly. Alright. Our last story of today is There Will Be Other Summers by Tandewrites. For this story, the CWs include mental illness and suicide. And the overview says it's perfect for fans of Alice Omen and Osmond and All the Bright Places. I guess it's just mental illness then. Chapter 0. There are over 7,000 songs on Ryan's phone, yet he can't find one that fits his mood. From the bench at the peak of the cliff, wind tears at his jacket while pop singers croon love in his ear, and rockers disguise their anguish and contagious. The Russian broke me. Contagious guitar riffs that he will never learn to play. Out of 7,000 songs, not one of them managed to portray the overwhelming emptiness that he feels. Not even songs can replicate the feeling of being numb. Eventually, Ryan commands Siri through his earphone, microphone, to shuffle all the songs, turning the volume down until the music is backing vocals to the howling whales song of the wind. The weather serenades him as he tries to conjure an image of his location in his mind. Throughout his childhood, Ryan visited a similar salt-choked shoreline just to admire how the peak of the cliff was in the center of a reversed V shape, though everyone standing near the edge could see the beach curving back either side of them, and how there was nothing but endless water in front. It felt as if he was at the edge of the world. Ryan can remember feeling like he was infinite back then. When his biggest concern was if his mother would be late home or from work that night. But his visual memory faded soon after the bolt of his eyesight. And now his mother doesn't come home at all. Now, when he stands near the edge of a different cliff and looks around, he sees an immersed blackness that taunts him even when his eyes are open, and the occasional glint of sunlight reflects off the waves. The scene his father once described to him remains a list of facts rather than a clear picture in his head, and Ryan will stare at the horizon and pretend that he has seen something other than light and shadows from the past few years. But he'll still try. He tries every time he makes his way up the winding, weather-worn path. Rain or shine, he unfolds his cane from where he abandons it beside him, stands up and tentatively taps his way to a spot a few feet back from the cliff's edge, marked by a large smooth rock. The distant sounds of waves a couple of 100 feet or so below replaces his music as they crash relentlessly at the beach, and Ryan tries to convince himself that it's the force of the wind that causes tears to drip down his cheek. It's been too long to fall back into the pit of self-misery that served as his home after he lost the ability to see colors or anything in the dark. After he turned 14 and he had to relearn how to pour a glass of water without help. After he lost almost all of his remaining vision. Some days he's not convinced that he ever left the pit. When he was 13 years old, a condition with his eyesight that he was born with became something else, something that could not be held at bay with prescriptions and glasses and surgeries. His vision decayed rapidly over the next year, and one of his eyes was removed after contracting an infection during what was supposed to be a routine procedure. He was told there was no other option, and why would he question that? The eye had to go, and the surgeon attempted to salvage the socket in hopes that a prosthetic might fit. But it was such a mess that nobody gave Ryan a straight answer as to whether it'd be possible, and he eventually became so afraid of leaving the house that he never went back. Now, almost 4 years later, he wears sunglasses to cover the scar tissue that guards the eye socket without the eye, and his mother convinced him over a phone call to use a white cane to help him go to places he could navigate in his sleep. On the plus side, his cane has a new curved tip, so he's prepared for all terrain. After a few minutes, Ryan's phone rang, the sound cutting through his music and taunting him as he fumbled for the zipper pocket inside of his jacket. The sound mutes itself before he can respond and stays quiet, so he decides it was only an alarm. If it was either of his parents, they would keep calling until he answered. He turned off his music just in case. He questions Siri about his day as he guides himself down the cliff path and to the parked car at the bottom. Siri, what time is it? It's 13:27, Ryan. Siri set to have the voice of an Australian man pronounces his name Ryan, like the river. It's difficult to hear the voice over the howl of the wind, but he will always notice when his chosen name is mispronounced. It never fails to bring back memories of school days, with teachers ticking names off the register, making several students stuttering attempts to read the name when they got halfway down the list, concluding with a pronunciation that was often far from correct. His name is only 3 letters long, pronounced like win, but with an arn. How much easier would it be? How much easier could it be? Is therapy today? He asks when he's finished cycling through the memories, confirming that the sound was an alarm and not a concerned parent. There's a brief pause before the electronic voice replies, You have 18 events this month, Rin. That's a lot. Rin lets out a frustrated sigh, not caring that someone could be around to witness him arguing with his phone. Read out the events for today, please. I don't understand, Rin. Sighing again, he locks his phone and wedges it into the front pocket of his jeans. It's time for him to go. On the other side of town, Asher slumps into the passenger seat of a second-hand Volvo, waiting for her mother to put down her phone long enough to remember that she's behind the steering wheel. Asher opens her music, pauses the song that was playing on mute, and scrolls down to reveal the lyrics. Her mother taps in furious silence at her shattered phone screen with a freshly manicured nail. She mouths words in a fashion that appear to be angry, and Asher can't decipher the exact words that are being said. She hasn't got around to replacing the batteries in her hearing aids, and every voice sounds like it's underwater until she does. But she assumes they're most likely directed at her mother's newest boyfriend. She sinks into the seat with her feet tucked beneath her until her spine resembles something that should be close to a medical concern. She stops reading for a few moments to examine the world outside of the car. In this late spring, the weather is unpredictable. Early in the week, Asher left the house under a blue sky, broken only by a splatter of picture book clouds, barely moving in the breeze. Today, the air is cold, and last month, frigid rain threatened to return, cumulus blocking out the sun. After she's consumed the lyrics of the song that was topping the charts a few decades before she was born, Asher noticed the time. It's past half past 1. Accompanied by an eye roll, she skips to the next song, pauses it, and reads the lyrics in time to a melody she invents. She pretends not to care that her mother is making her run late to something that wasn't her idea. In fact, she pretends not to care so hard that she chews through the sore spot on her lip until it bleeds again. But Asher isn't that good at pretending that something doesn't matter to her. So after another So after another song, she says, "Mom, I can't be late. It's my first session." The time is 20 minutes to 2, and group therapy begins at 10 minutes to 2. It's a 15-minute drive to the other side of town. Her mother's head snaps up, and she spouts what Asher can only assure are profanities as her eyes land on the car radio's clock. She frantically buckles her seatbelt, releases the handbrake, and sends the car screeching into the road, nearly missing the neighbor's recycling bins. Asher sighs and rubs her temples between her forefingers. Maybe one day her mother will pay more attention to her than the other life that exists solely inside her phone. Have a good time, kid. I'll be waiting here a little before 3 in case you finish early. Or in case Rin decides to leave early, but neither he nor his father will acknowledge that. Rin nods in the vague direction of his father, knowing that the man will be unlikely to leave the car park for the next hour. Ever since his wife left 3 years earlier, he has become increasingly protective of his son, willing to spend all of his time waiting outside of meetings and appointments and activities, guaranteeing that he is always available to be by Rin's side at a moment's notice, whether or not it is wanted. and it is rarely wanted, but Rin doesn't have the heart to tell him that. As Rin attempts to exit the car, his father leans over and holds the door halfway shut, blocking the gap with his arms. A lingering scent of paint fumes clings to his father's shirt sleeves, along something bitter and familiar, coffee perhaps, and Rin wonders what has been repainted around the house. Can you at least try to make some friends today? His father asks, knowing his son preference for staying away from any form of discovering human life. If Rin still had two fully functioning eyes, he would roll them. Don't set your sights too high, Dad. It's so quiet in there that I could be sitting in an empty room for all I care. But you should, Rin. You should care. Rin inserts another hypothetical eye roll into the conversation. If I make a friend this week, will you stop bothering me? Why don't you see for yourself? Rin restrains a half-hearted laugh at the word choice, pushing his hair back from where it falls behind his sunglasses and irritates his scar. There may be a slight issue there. Before his father has a chance to respond, Rin clambers out of the car and guides himself towards the youth center. An apparent concrete monstrosity of a building that was constructed in the past 5 years in the name of urban development, more commonly known as bulldozing a perfectly fine garage for teenagers to drink behind. He's soon accompanied by a young woman and her cloud of perfume, who his father describes as someone who could have stepped straight out of the pages of a magazine, but one of the ones Rin remembers seeing on the top shelf in the corner shop. How are you today, Rin? The woman asks in a voice like crackles. She speaks as if she's reading from a script, making a point to say Rin's name after each line. It's more like she's fresh out of training and hasn't found her stride yet, but Rin tends to assume the worst from people. Average, he replies, nudging his sunglasses further up his nose with the handle of his cane. He's 20 steps from the car, so he has a smooth stretch in 30 steps where there are no potholes or cracks in the pavement, and he can walk unaided as long as he keeps count. I'd be better if I could see past my problems. The woman supplied a polite laugh as Rin realized he's known her for a week and he was never told her name. Or he was told and just never remembered, or he simply never asked. Not like it mattered to him anymore. He's made enough attempts to show he doesn't intend to build a friendship with her in the brief few minutes they are forced to share as they cross the car park together on either side of therapy sessions. Those attempts mainly consist of jokes about his lack of one fully functioning sense. Sometimes, after realizing that what he's doing, the woman tries to retaliate. Now is one of those times. Joking about people's disabilities, even your own, does more harm than good, Rin. Don't anyone ever teach you that? There's a pause as they reach the front doors in the building. Rin waits until he hears her groan as she tugs one of the heavy doors open, takes a few steps forward and hesitates, looking directly at the place where he heard her voice. To be honest, I don't think I saw anyone laughing. And that's the end of this first section. Yay! Now on to the comments. We have one comment on here from 2 months ago from our good old friend of the channel. Good job, you really captured the Osmond feel. I concur. Please leave your own comment and continue reading if this thing interests you. By thing, I mean story. Thank you all so much for coming and joining the stream. Yay! We're all done for the stories we have here. If you want to submit your story to read, or if you want us to continue reading a story, I don't know. I don't know the rules. Don't look at me. Please feel free to submit them. We story scouts do look at the submission and go through them. And we do get to your story eventually. We can only hope. But thank you all for coming and joining us. I'm glad that you had all your funs. Please feel free to check out each and every last one of these stories. They deserve so much more comments, so much more reactions on their stories. Same with any story on StoryForge. There's a great community. It's all good writing. And I'll be seeing you whenever the next time I read something.